Now, some not so great news on the recruiting trail for Syracuse football and Fran Brown. If you recall, Syracuse football had a trio of commits in the class of 2026. They were all 4 stars. That is no longer the case, as Demetres Samuel, a 2026 4-star player, top 80 overall in the country, flipped his commitment last night from Syracuse to the University of Florida. And not only that, not only did he flip his commitment, he also reclassified to 2025. So now he's not in the class of 2026 anymore. He is in the class of 2025, and he is committed to the University of Florida. This is a kid who can play defensive back. He can play wide receiver. When I spoke to his high school coach months ago on the podcast, he spoke very highly of the program and how Syracuse, through the coach's perspective, was doing a great job of recruiting Demetres Samuel. Obviously, I'm not mad at Demetres Samuel, and I wish him nothing but the best. He's made a decision that is best for himself, obviously. But it's still a bummer, of course, as a fan of this team, as someone who's covering this team. Yeah, I would have wanted a top 80 player in the country to stay committed to Syracuse. But at the end of the day, it's just a verbal commitment. That's all it is. He wanted to reclassify to 2025. He gets that wish, and he's going to an SEC program in Florida, even though their coach is a sitting duck right now. But the big thing I take away from Demetres Samuel ultimately decommitting and flipping to Florida is the fact that there are still 2 players left in the class of 2026, and it is sort of important to hang on to them. I say sort of because there's plenty of time to recover. I mean, this was a class of 2026 guy. I know he eventually reclassified to 2025, but he's 2026, and that's down the ways away for everyone, even though you kind of have to keep it on your radar. There's still time to recover, obviously, but there are 2 players currently in the class. Both of them are 4 stars, both of which Brian Smith, Locked On recruiting expert, said are going to be pretty tough to hang on to. First of all, Isaiah Williams, a 6-foot, 200-pound linebacker, also from Florida, like Demetres Samuel. He's a top 40 player overall in the country. This is going to be difficult to keep. I don't know how else to say it. It's going to be very difficult to keep Isaiah Williams. I'm glad that Syracuse is at least the incumbent, that they have him for now, but at the same time, it ain't going to be easy to keep him. Hopefully they can. But they're over a year away from him actually being able to sign because he's in the class of 2026. There's also Deontay Sheffy, the running back, 190 pounds, 5'10". He's from Pennsylvania. Penn State, as of right now, has not been actively recruiting him, so that's positive news on the Syracuse front. He is a 24/7 Sports composite 4-star player, and when I spoke to Brian Smith last week and had him on the podcast, he said that Sheffy was probably going to be the easiest of the 3 to hang on to over the next year plus. But at the same time, if Penn State gets involved with him, that could be trouble for Syracuse football. So there's plenty of time to bounce back in the class of 2026. So on a scale of 1 to 10, of 10 being a big deal, 1 being no big deal, I'd put it at about a 5 because Demetres Samuel was a heck of a recruit. Top 80 overall player in the country. I don't know if Syracuse is going to have a top 80 overall player in the country when all is said and done in 2026. But the reason why it's only a 5 is because they got a year plus to be able to figure it out. So not so great news on the Syracuse football recruiting front. I wish I had better news for you all. I wish I could say, hey, Demetres Samuel is staying with Syracuse, but I can't. He's flipping to the University of Florida, which means Syracuse has 2 players left in the class, and hopefully they can recover. They got plenty of time to do it. Hopefully they can find a replacement in that class